Shrek is a movie and franchise largely known for its edgy humor and incredible soundtracks, and while these things were certainly key factors in the success of Shrek, I think people often overlook the true brilliance of the first Shrek film. Now, in all transparency, I do think the sequel is superior, but Shrek's debut in 2001 really gave us a fascinating and subversive spin on classic fairy tales. But being subversive and different doesn't just magically make something good, and the heart and strong morals at the core of this film is why the subversion is so effective. When you look at the bare-bones structure of this film, it is essentially a different take on Beauty and the Beast. You have a monstrous ogre who falls in love with a beautiful princess, and though they're an oddball couple on the surface, they just can't help themselves from falling in love with one another. But the key aesthetic difference is that Fiona transforms into an ogre at the end of the film, rather than a traditionally beautiful princess. And though this is a simple change to the Beauty and the Beast format, I think it is an emotionally rich change. In Beauty and the Beast, Belle is rewarded for accepting and loving Beast despite his appearance by having his appearance magically change, which I think undermines the film's message a little bit. Whereas in Shrek, by having Fiona transform into an ogre, it reinforces that both she and Shrek don't love each other just because of their appearances. Fiona remaining an ogre is not a negative in Shrek's eyes because he's grown to love her for who she truly is as a person. And this really reframes Fiona's curse of turning into an ogre at night in my eyes, because in reality it wasn't a curse at all. Rather, by having her appearance changed in this way, it allowed Fiona to find a partner that loved her for who she truly is, and not just for her looks or her royal lineage. And Shrek being an ogre himself and shown to be an outcast because of this throughout the film also aids with this message. We see that Shrek views himself as not worthy of Fiona at first. He thinks that because society has deemed him as a foul beast, that he must fulfill that role and couldn't possibly be a suitable partner for Fiona. And despite the fact that it has become a massive meme at this point, the idea of Shrek being an onion is fucking brilliant. Onions don't smell all that great when you're peeling them in my opinion, and they'll most likely make you cry. But in the end, they do taste quite good and yes, have many layers to them. And while we can clearly see how this serves as an analogy for Shrek's character, it also does for Fiona. On the surface, she's beautiful and comes from wealth, and most people simply stop there and view her only through those lenses. But deep down, she wants someone to be willing to look past that and actually get to know and accept her. Though visually different at first, she essentially is the same as Shrek, judged by society because of her outward appearance, and forced to fit into a specific societal role. And in Shrek and Fiona ending the film together, both as ogres, the movie truly reinforces the fact that you shouldn't judge a book by its cover, and that accepting yourself, flaws and all, is the first step to finding love in someone else. Only once they're willing to accept who they truly are do Shrek and Fiona fully accept each other and fall in love with one another. But wait, there's more. I also think Lord Farquaad is used to emphasize this message of self-acceptance in a really fun way. Lord Farquaad is impulsive and is highly self-conscious of his height, and you might think that the movie constantly poking fun at Lord Farquaad's height contradicts the idea of beauty being on the inside. But by honing in on these shortcomings, I think it actually serves to reinforce this idea through how reactionary Lord Farquaad is. He wears extra long armor when he's on horseback in order to give off the appearance that he's taller than he really is, and his lust for power and to be a king is surely compensating for his self-perceived lack of importance due to his small stature. And his impulsiveness also plays a role here, because when the mirror tries to tell him about how Fiona changes into an ogre at night, he doesn't even want to hear it and cuts the mirror off. All that matters to him is that Fiona is hot and that marrying her will make him a king. And getting to see Farquaad and Shrek simultaneously react to seeing Fiona's transformation for the first time really drives everything home. Shrek is almost relieved as he says, "Oh, well, this explains a lot," while Lord Farquaad is disgusted and wants both of them out of his sight. So yes, the film did make fun of Lord Farquaad's height quite a bit, something that he admittedly has no control over. But in the end, he's a bad guy and such a reprehensible character, not because of his height, but because of who he is on the inside, and the fact that he never comes to accept his flaws. He is a short man who was not meant to be a king. If he could have accepted that and loved himself in spite of it, then he too could have had a happy ending. But because he failed to accept himself, he doesn't find true love. Rather, he finds himself in the belly of a dragon. And this idea is also reinforced through Farquaad's decision to banish all of the fairy tale creatures to Shrek's swamp at the start of the movie. Farquaad fails to view these creatures as human or deserving of fundamental rights, so he sends them away, which in many ways mirrors how Shrek views himself. He thinks of himself as non-human and undeserving of fundamental rights or kindness from others, and this largely fuels his desire to be alone and isolated in his swamp. The film does a phenomenal job of showing us Shrek's evolution into becoming someone who accepts himself, while Farquaad stagnates and fails to change or grow. And when you think of it, every integral character in this film initially looks outward to try and solve their inner struggles. Fiona was locked away in a tower because she turns into an ugly monster every night, and to rid herself of this curse, she's waiting and hoping for a handsome prince to come and save her and give her true love. Lord Farquaad keeps trying to make himself better and more powerful through outside means, whether that be through trying to hide how short he is or marrying into a royal bloodline. Shrek wants to be left alone and isolated, so he goes to Lord Farquaad for the deed to his swamp. Donkey is abandoned by his owners because he talks way too much, and so he sets out to find people who will accept him for the loud and borderline annoying individual that he is. But only the characters who come to accept themselves and realize that their problems won't be solved by some kind of outward force, and rather through working on themselves and fixing their own mental blocks, find happiness in the end. And as far as messages go, I think this is a pretty layered one. Kind of like an onion, I suppose. Well, if you made it this far, please let me know in the comments, what's your favorite Shrek film? And how do you feel about Shrek 5? Are you excited for it, or has the animation kinda made you a little bit worried? I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please feel free to drop a like or subscribe for more Screen Stories content. Until next time, peace.